On the 10th of November, 2000 of the 18th year, the Mallis family from the state was doing their daily chores on the farm. After some time, the father sent his son to try to check his mother. When the boy went inside, he found a terrible picture. Emmeline Fuller was born on January 23, 1979 to the family of Robert Ipiga Fuller. She grew up in the area of Elder, Shatayev, and graduated from high school 1997th year. After that, the girl received the specialty of a nurse. On the 11th of September 2004, Amy married Todd Mallis, a successful farmer and pig farmer. He was passionate about agriculture. He bought his first farm in '90 and gradually developed his business, which included 3 farms, and part of the 4th met in 2003 at the county fair. A year later, they got married and moved to live with her husband on a farm located in Ervil. Stadeva worked as a nurse for the first few years, then in the emergency department at the Regional Medical Center in Manchester. But she loved rural life, hunting, fishing, and camping. Therefore, life on the farm was perfect for her. Soon, the family began to grow. 3 beautiful children appeared in it, Tristan, but after 10 years of marriage, the couple went through a crisis. Emmy had an affair with a man she met at work. It's not difficult to imagine the situation, but a family with children is not something that can be lost. So, according to some reports, the couple turned to a psychologist and I managed to put up and move on. But something has changed. Her name left her job as a nurse to devote herself to the house, children, and help with the housework. His behavior has also changed, and he has become more controlling. Amy had to tell him every time she wanted to go somewhere. What should she do, and perhaps most importantly, with whom? Some friends claimed that Amy had a list of friends approved and that the whole meeting was scheduled. The situation was so extreme that her friends called her Captive Toto, and since extremes are almost never good, this new lifestyle suffocated Emmy. And in the year 2018, it reached a critical point. Amy began a second extramarital affair with Jeremy Fraser, a married man with 2 children who worked on a family farm, as often happens in rural areas. Rumors began to spread, and Emmy's friend told her about what was being said in the district and very honestly told her that she was putting herself in a very dangerous situation, possibly because of gossip. Her eldest son, Trista, also drew attention to its attention, telling her if her father finds out she's having an affair, he'll kill her. Emmy knew it too, and in fact, talking about it with a friend, she said where they could not look for her body if she ever disappeared. But from the comments made by both her friend and her brother, Jeff, it follows that Amy felt strong enough to be herself. Her marriage was no longer what she wanted. He was strangling her, and she was secretly looking for a job and a place to live. In July 2000 of the 18th year, he noticed changes in his wife's attitude and decided to check the records of Emmy's mobile phone, in which 128 messages sent to Jerry Fraser. He couldn't get access to these messages, but he couldn't stand it and met with Jerry. The man tried to assure him that these messages were related to the affairs of the farms, whose accounts he kept with Amy, and the activities of the children of both couples, and there was nothing to worry about. He was not convinced of this, and even talked to Frieder's wife, who managed to calm him down, saying that everything was fine, that he and Jerry had a happy marriage, and that she was not worried about her husband at all. Apparently, Emmy was also able to foresee a possible conflict when the rumors about her affair, because he confessed to his friend that she talked to him about these gossips, crying for several hours, and told him that maybe she should leave, because the family will be better off without her. But it wasn't that easy. He repeatedly made it clear that divorce was not an option for him. On the one hand, he considered it socially unacceptable, and on the other hand, he was not ready to share half of the property he worked so hard to create. In August of the 2018 year. Emmy's grandmother died, and she came to the funeral and asked to keep part of her grandmother's furniture so that she was with Dan to start when she leaves there, since she planned to wait until the end of the harvest season to file for divorce. On the 6th of November, 2018, Emmy had an outpatient operation and was forbidden to lift weights and rest. 4 days later, He and 300 left home early to check the pigs and returned when Emmy had just finished cooking breakfast. Then he and his son returned to the pigsty to prepare for the reception of a new batch of piglets. After cleaning up the dishes in the morning, Emmy went out to the mews and her son, what about household chores? But before that, she received a message from a friend asking how she was feeling and replied, "Thank you, I'm fine. Everything is very tense here. I'm not sure about anything anymore." And she also wrote a message to Jerry Fraser, knows that I'm going to do the cleaning of the fucking lamps in the shed today. Everyone had something to do that day. He cleaned the feeders, brought 300 heaters from the warehouse for the pens, and since Amy could not lift weights, she cleaned the lamp in the shed. But after a while, Trista noticed something strange about his mother. It turned out to be a little unstable, and at one point she had to sit down so as not to fall. Her legs turned out to be shaking. Seeing this, the boy asked her if everything was all right. If she needs help, then I asked the same question, but Amy replied that everything was fine and that they should continue working. After a while, Amy's condition worsened. He noticed that his mother was dizzy, and he did not ignore it by telling her that it doesn't make sense for her to keep working, and he doesn't want her to fall and get hurt. He also believed that his wife should not continue working in such a place, so he asked her to help him find one of the cages for transporting animals that he would need later to go to rest, and she agreed with the request. The man told her that the cage was in a red shed located 30 meters from the place where they were and asked to leave her in the office, adding that if she can find her, then do not worry, they will look for her later. And they left the tools that she used and left the shed with a smile. He and his son continued to work for another hour and a half, and then both left the shed and went to the office looking out the window. He understood that the cage was not there and told his son to go to the barn to check on his mother, thinking that maybe she had not found the cage, and the young man went there, not imagining what he would find there. As soon as Tristan crossed the threshold of the barn, he found that his mother was lying face down, with her hands on her knees on the floor, and in villas are stuck in her back. Of course, the boy began to call his father. He bent down and touched the neck of his mother's wrist, trying to figure out if she was alive. A few seconds later, he ran into the room and, seeing what was happening, asked his son to immediately go for the truck and drive it to the door. The old man remained in place, but did not call the rescue service. When Kristen pulled up the van, he pulled Will off his wife's back and carried her out of the barn. Creston got on the passenger side. His father put Amy practically on top of his son and drove towards the nearest hospital. At 12 o'clock, the man called the 911 and, in horror, told the operator that he was going to the Manchester Regional Medical Center, which is located about 20 kilometers from home, but could not explain what had happened. The operator asked him to stop, which he did. Then he instructed to perform resuscitation actions until help arrived. He threw back the seat and began doing cardiopulmonary resuscitation to his wife. A few minutes later, a policeman, Luke Thompson, arrived at the scene, who pulled the bloody woman from the van, put her on the ground, and continued to do artificial respiration at the same time her husband about the incident. He said that he was not sure, but suspected that her head was spinning and she accidentally fell on the floor. An ambulance arrived moments later, and several passers-by stopped at the scene, including male family acquaintances. Something sent Stano home with one of the police followed the boy, and the husband got into another neighbor's car, and they followed the ambulance to the hospital, where Emmy was pronounced dead the following hours and days. Investigative actions were carried out at the Mallis farm, during which the site was surveyed from photographed, and the police found a pitchfork on which, as it was believed, Amy fell by accident. Although it will soon be hard to believe in this version, the medical expert conducted an initial examination of Amy's body, noting the damage on her chin, cheek, knees, and knuckles on her back. The specialist found 6 stab wounds. Since the information received announced that the victim fell on a pitchfork, the doctor asked to see them, and when they were shown to him, everything changed. The pitchfork had 4 prongs. Therefore, it is impossible that they made 6 holes as a result of the impact. In addition, traces of the impact were found on Amy's chin, but not such a surface as 1.5. The doctor contacted the state forensic pathologist and asked him to conduct an autopsy of the body. The deputy sheriff of the county was informed of this case and accompanied the investigation on the family, as well as the autopsy of Emmy's body conducted 2 days later. Forensic experts determined that the wound on Emmy's left arm could have been received in defense and corresponded to a fight, as well as the wounds on the chin, cheek, and ear of the woman. However, even more interesting were the stab wounds on her back that penetrated so deeply that they passed through Amy's breast implant, and they came out through the chest and also pierced her lung and liver. But the most striking thing was that there were 2 different types of wounds, 4 of which pointed in one direction, and the other 2 turned out to be made in the opposite direction. The medical examiner found that Emmy's body was hit with a pitchfork 2, maybe 3 times. Then everyone realized that it wasn't an accident. It was murder. Murder investigations were not a common occurrence for this locality. Therefore, the police turned to the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation for help. During the search at terms, all electronic devices, phones, computers, iPads, today, and surveillance systems for the farm were seized, including 2 cameras covering the territory of the security system. Nothing could be found out. Since the video recording from the camera aimed at the Red Barn stopped on October 29th and resumed on November 11th, a day after the incident. During the search of the victim's phone, investigators also drew attention to the number of messages addressed. However, this person was excluded from the list of suspects because, as a result of checking his phone, it was found that at the time of the crime, he was in his house 45 minutes away from the crime scene, and his son confirmed that his wife was with him all day, so she was excluded from the list of suspects. But as a result of the examination of the iPad, interesting information appeared. At the end of the 2017 year, such search queries as characteristics of adulterous women, infidelity, 6 were found in the Google account. All unfaithful women or murder, which was common many centuries ago. Since about January 2000 of the 18th year, strange search queries have also been found. For example, how to make sure that your children are really yours, to do a DNA analysis at home, or how to do a DNA analysis. What did they do with traitors in the past? Ancient cultures killed adulterers. What did the thrill of killing, the thrill of hunting or killing, cheating women do to the infidelity of an ancient culture? And about 4 days before Emmy's death, there were requests for what to do with large open wounds on the body, the location of body organs, and the like. This was a huge number of search queries, most of which were conducted in the early morning during initial conversations with police officers. He claimed that he had a happy marriage, that the couple's relationship was strong and close, and that they rarely fought. However, when 6 days later, after several results of the investigation, it was found that Emmy did not fall on the pitchfork, but was attacked by someone, he said that although he did not know what happened, it seems likely to him that his wife accidentally fell on the instrument. Since a few minutes before there was dizziness, he admitted that they had problems in marriage because of her infidelity a few years ago, but said that they overcame it, that the marriage was strong, and that he believed Emmy when he told him that she had nothing with Fraser. But there were too many clues for the police to point to, yes. Who had something to lose in a divorce? However, there is a serious problem with these conclusions, which is that the trusts in their first statements claimed that after his left and the second, where they did not work, his father was always there and was always in sight. Then during the second survey remembered that at some point he left the barn to drink water, but according to his estimate, he returned in about 2 minutes and the father was there. This time was not enough to walk to the barn, kill Amy, make sure she was dead, and come back. Crystal stated that he did not notice bloodstains on his father's clothes and his behavior did not change. He wasn't excited or worried. In addition, investigators analyzed the action on the day he sent Sarai to look for Emmy. But why did he think that after an hour and a half the woman could still be in the shed? Most likely, the man wanted someone else to find Emmy's body. His reaction also seemed strange when during another interrogation, the police told him that they had sufficient proof of his guilt in the death of his wife. He was not shocked by such an accusation. On the contrary, he only asked what exactly he was guilty of. However, this was not a decisive argument, since each person reacts in his own way. Nevertheless, the investigators believe that they have enough circumstantial evidence to bring that Les's house to trial for the murder of his wife. A man was arrested on bail of $5 million, and the trial took place almost a year after the murder in September 2019. One of the issues that was important to prove to the prosecution was that I wasn't happy. Therefore, several of Emmy's friends were called to testify, and they all said they were worried about Emmy's life. The first two witnesses were Ahmed's brother and her stepmother, Eileen Fuller. Both of them stated that the woman was unhappy in her marriage and talked about divorce, but she knew that he would not agree to it. According to Jeff, his sister felt like a slave or a hostage, and I told him that if her husband found out about her new novel, she would disappear. And Eileen noted that he had been looking angry and upset lately. Jerry Fraser testified like this. He admitted that he had a relationship with Amy and said that their meeting took place once a week, sometimes more often, but after he discovered their correspondence and about why it is impossible that her injuries were the result of an accidental fall on the villas. Contrary to the expectations of many, he spoke in court, testified for about 3 hours, during which he was not distinguished by eloquence and looked calm and unperturbed, claiming that everything was fine in them, that they did not overcome the episode with Amy's betrayal in the 2013 year, and that they were very close. He admitted that the woman's death was not an accident, but he stated that he was not responsible for her and did not know who could have killed her. When asked about the absence of CCTV footage, he immediately said that he did not notice it, that it was during a conversation with his family the day after the murder that he decided to check the cameras and found that the antennas on the roots from the window had fallen off. He assumed that this cat was felling them in search of warmth. Since there was a heater right under this window, he also claimed that he did not know that Amy was having an affair, and denied that he was the author of strange and suspicious search queries on the internet. He said other family members also had access to an iPad, but he does not know who could carry out these search queries. When asked why, after discovering that he was injured, he did not call the rescue service, but instead pulled Vila out of her back, moved the body and put it in a truck for transportation, he replied that he only thought about helping her take her to the hospital. After the hearing, the parties made concluding arguments. The prosecution claimed that he had been thinking about killing Emmy for many years after the first betrayal in the 2013 year. And by faking an accident, he hoped that people would feel sorry for him and not ask any more questions. They also said that the main motive was that Todd had something to lose from a time that seemed inevitable: $2 million and half of the property. Prosecutors said farming meant everything to him. He had visited this farm all his life, and the accused had to find a way to preserve it. For its part, the defense argued that the prosecution could not prove Toto's guilt beyond any doubt, and that the issues considered in this case are not even remotely related. After a week of hearings, the jury retired to a meeting, and on September 23, 2019, they handed down a verdict, finding him guilty of first-degree murder of his 39-year-old wife, Amy Mallis. When he heard the decision, he shook his head slightly in denial, and Emmy's family breathed a sigh of relief. The verdict was handed down almost a year later. On the 4th of September, 2020, he was sentenced to life imprisonment in court without the possibility of parole. In addition, he was ordered to pay $150,000 in compensation to the victim's family friends. What do you think about this story? Write your opinion in the comments, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel and other social networks. You can find links to them in the description below this video. Not saying goodbye.